Hey, yo, hello to all of you beautiful, wonderful, self loving, worthy individuals out there. This is Sensei Fouché. Welcome to the neighborhood. Let's chop it up. Let me begin by stating that I am extremely thankful and have been humbled by the opportunity that I had to be where I'm at today from a residential standpoint as well as a psychological standpoint as well. I don't really go into my personal life too much. We're gonna kind of dig into it a little bit for a moment. You know what I'm saying? Because it's really extremely relevant into connecting the topic of what we're gonna deal with right now. You know what I'm saying? I stayed in Atlanta for 13 years. I was born in New York City and spent 27 years there. I have family that is located right outside of Charleston, South Carolina. You know what I'm saying? I've been where I'm at now for 12 years. And I'm in the Midwest, the North Midwest of these states of America, specifically in Rapid City, South Dakota. Not too far, mileage wise, from Mount Rushmore. Mount Rushmore may be maybe 40 miles from where I'm at. If I drove 45, 50 minutes from my current location, I would be looking up at this huge mountain of presidents' faces. The four iconic presidents that they chose to be on this monument. And when it was first introduced for me to come out to where I'm at now, and it was only supposed to be, you know what I'm saying, a couple of weeks for me to reevaluate some things and decompress a little bit emotionally and psychologically, because everything became a complete mess when I was down there in Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? This was like New York, but turned up to a whole nother level, you know what I'm saying, of how you live your life and how you deal with your emotions. You know what I'm saying? So coming out here and what most people would refer to as a culture shock, you know, was really a reality check. You know what I'm saying? From the moment that I got on that Greyhound in downtown Atlanta and started traveling west, it was a constant process. And the bus ride was, I want to say, a day and a half. I want to say it was a day and a half. I know I left early in the morning, maybe about 6 in the morning, my bus left, and I wound up arriving into Rapid City bus depot the next day in that early evening. It was like around 6 o'clock. So yeah, I want to say the whole bus ride was like 36 hours. And I had to do a lot of evaluating, self evaluation. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, how did you get on this bus? And I had a large duffel bag and a small rolling suitcase. I came out here, all of my possessions were inside of these two baggages. And I had to ask myself, like, what really got you here? And there was still a lot of anger and a lot of resentment, you know what I'm saying? A lot of deflection. It was somebody else's fault, you know what I'm saying? Because of them, that's why I am where I am. And that was extremely selfish. And not honest. I realized shortly after I arrived here that I was extremely angry. And it wasn't in my best interest maybe to go back east so soon. You know what I'm saying? Like, I lost everything. The car I had in Atlanta, the engine blew. My best friend threw me out of his home. My daughter's mother threw me out of our home before my best friend threw me out of the home I stayed at with him. You know what I'm saying? I lost visitation with my daughter. My whole life was exposed as far as, my secrecy of addiction, hard drugs. I mean, my alcohol consumption was extreme. Dealing with specific hard drugs and being around people and environments that was extremely dangerous. Like, that was how I lived my life, you know what I'm saying? I mean, in the infamous words of the deceased Notorious B.I.G. in the world of hip hop, like, I was ready to die. You know what I'm saying? And the reality is, back in those days, if anyone asked me, I mean, there's an old school movie in black cinema, Menace to Society. And any unks or OGs like me, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And you youngins could look it up. Menace to Society. Very, very deep movie when it comes to understanding the structure of black culture in that time period. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, anybody that's right around my peer, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? And in this one scene, because the grandfather was raising grandson along with, grandma, because son's parents died. His father died because of street violence, and his mom overdosed on drugs, so he wound up living with his grandparents. And these, older people, and not just common old, because by the time he's graduating, I'm sure that both of his grandparents were like right in their 70s, like in their, early mid 70s. And grandfather asked grandson, because grandson was going through all these things in the streets, and there was a lot of rumors, and his reputation was very skeptical. And grandpa asked grandson, "Do you care if you live or die?" And grandson thought about it for like 3 seconds, and he responded, "I don't really know." All of us talk about, how hard life is. We go through these struggles. Oh, nobody understands. Nobody knows what I'm going through. Woe's me. Poor me. Me. Nobody. Like, this isn't a huge world with lots of people within this world that go through live within the same conditions, have to live within the same struggles, but not everyone has the same outcome. Now think about that. Like, we all live on this earth with a whole bunch of other people. Like, nobody else goes through things themselves. We the only ones that have it hard, and other people have it easy. But then we know that ain't really true, because the associations we keep by choice, for the most part, are people that are just like us, that we could complain to as they complain to us as well. And all we talk about are problems and struggles as opposed to solutions. So you struggling, and then you relate best with other people that struggle. But you talk about getting ahead. You talk about getting ahead and being something different, but the way you speak, the way you think, and the way you move, and the people that you keep around you contradicts everything that you say you want to escape from. So then the real question is, who are you? A movie that I love is Castaway, starring Tom Hanks. Everybody would know Tom Hanks from the classic, iconic movie Forrest Gump. You know what I'm saying? Or I can't remember the other one offhand, where they went to Saving Private Ryan, right? Saving Private Ryan. You know, that's Tom Hanks. And he did this movie called Castaway. You know what I'm saying? And in Castaway, he's a man that works for FedEx, and upon traveling back from this business trip over in Russia, if I'm correct, his plane goes into turmoil and crashes on this remote island somewhere in the Pacific. You know, and he's the only survivor. The pilots, you know, they're dead. So he's on this island for about 3 years. And within one of the packages that was in the FedEx delivery is this volleyball. And he creates this character from this volleyball. He draws a face on it and creates a personality and speaks to it. He even gave it a name, which was Wilson, because, you know, it was a Wilson soccer ball. So next thing you know, the dude names the soccer ball Wilson, and he has his character and someone he's able to talk to, because he's all alone in reality and has no one to communicate with. He doesn't think that he'll see anybody ever again. And in this isolation and his thirst for companionship, he creates this identity and starts to communicate with this identity in order to keep his sanity and be able to have some sense of salvation in this extreme emotional situation that he's going through, where he is abandoned. You know, and that's just through some uncontrollable, from his standpoint, you know, malfunction from an avial system issue. You know what I'm saying? So he struggles with, you know, trying to keep his sanity and thinking that he will no longer be around other people, and lives this existence of isolation and trying to keep his sanity within this isolation. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, he's all alone. And a lot of us, we think nobody else understands. I'm the only one that goes through this. Problems, problems, problems. We so focused on problems that we don't even identify with solutions. You know what I'm saying? The people that we relate with and we keep around and the things we talk about and how we think is all problem based instead of solution oriented. And then we wonder what's wrong. And we think it's the world is the problem. It's the world that is the problem. Well, we already know what the world is. Not everybody handles things the way that you handle it. You know what I'm saying? So there's a difference in why other people succeed and why you fail. So you asking all the wrong questions or you making all the wrong relations as to what the problem really is and looking at the direction of where the path of solution really is directed at. Now I'm going to hit you right quick on where the pinpoint really is. And I had to ask myself this almost a year after I was starting to be more comfortable where I'm at. You know what I'm saying? Because I made a decision that I need to just chill for a couple of years and not go back east and, really figure some things out. You know what I'm saying? And I knew the distance would be very helpful because I would not be around immediately these things that enrage me. These people that I believe are my enemies. So one day after really going through a very emotional moment of isolation, I'm in my rented room and I go into the bathroom and I look in the mirror. And for the first time, I deeply, deeply looked in that mirror. And I kept staring at myself for about the next 10, 15 minutes. And tears were coming from my eyes. I was going through this emotion externally. But internally and inside of my head, I kept asking myself, who are you? Everybody over here where I'm at, they're like, yo, you got it together. You must have been this type of person for so long. And I'm like, man, there's been a lot of work that I put into who I am currently today. Since I touched down in this location 12 years ago, but 11 years ago, I stared myself eye to eye deeply in the mirror and asked that reflection, that man in the mirror, I had to ask him, who are you? So I wrote down a few notes to kind of go through this sequence of the process. You know what I'm saying? So I wrote down authenticity. Who are you and what do you expect to be? Can you live with the consequences? Like, what are your attributes? What are your detriments? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Like, be honest. Don't try to sugarcoat and mask and act like you something that you're not. You know what I'm saying? Because that lie is what is continuing to have you wailing uncontrollably, living your life swimming in this quicksand. So who are you? Who are you really? I told myself, I was like, you know what, man? You are a drug addict. You are an alcoholic. You are a liar. You let a lot of people down. You know what I'm saying? You are extremely angry. And then it clicked. It clicked. All this time, alcohol, cocaine, rock cocaine. I asked myself, I was like, what are you really addicted to? You live your life by addictions. Alcohol, cocaine, cigarettes, you know what I'm saying? What are you really addicted to? And then, boom, like a light bulb, it clicked immediately when I started reflecting on my life and all of these people that I remember in itemization. All of these details of who did me wrong and why I believe that. So I had to ask myself, I had to tell myself, really, you are addicted to being angry. Since I was maybe 15, to be specific, I realized I was extremely angry. I mean, I come from a home where I didn't know my biological father, or that he actually existed, until I was 15. You know what I'm saying? And that was a very traumatic experience. The home that I believed was my family, you know what I'm saying? Because my adopted dad, since I was a baby, he adopted me and I took his last name, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, him and my mom, they divorced when I was 10. And my sister, who's my half sister, his daughter, his biological daughter, you know what I'm saying? We struggled emotionally, first from the divorce, because I was already starting to act out a little bit, because my mom worked a lot and my dad worked a lot, and it was just basically me and my sister at home, especially after we kind of aged out of the after school programs. You know what I'm saying? By the time I'm able to stay home by myself, I'm basically looking after my sister. And that's supposed to help economically for them, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm old enough to stay home, and then I could kind of be the de facto babysitter for my sister, who's 3 years younger than me. You know what I'm saying? But that's where the anger really derived from. I was addicted to being angry. And then came the alcohol, and then came the, hard drugs as coping mechanisms, in believing that these things are supposed to make me forget or feel good beyond being angry. But all those things did was enable me to dig deeper into that anger and having bad attachments into helping me deal with, these emotions and feelings. So another note that I just put down, when you stare at the person in the mirror, what do you see, or are you afraid to answer truthfully and coward from your confrontation? Because if you in denial of who you are, what you've done, and how you represent yourself, you know what I'm saying, you're going to continue to go through the same things. You know what I'm saying? You're going to continue. You could be in a different setting, but it'll be the same feeling and the same result of feeling distant from society instead of included. You feel excluded instead of included. And you blame the world. But it's really not the world. It's how you deal with the world and how you choose to see the world and the people in it. How you evaluate these people and who you choose to connect to. So what do you stand for? And what are your moral beliefs? You know what I'm saying? Like, do you believe in isolation or do you believe in unification? Do you believe that all people have a right to justice, or specific people have a right to justice? Do all different types of people have a right to exist, or only the types of people that you are? So you're always right and other people are always wrong. Now that's not true. You know what I'm saying? Because even the people that you so-called get along with, y'all even have differences. So everybody's different. Everyone should agree to disagree. And if you can't agree to disagree, what does that say about you? I'll put down, are you a conservative person or liberal? And what does that mean? And I'm not going to really get too much into this because, that's more of a political thing. But realistically, some people say, hey, I'm a Christian. I'm Muslim. I'm Hindu. I am pro women's lib. But does that mean that those extreme people or those extreme views, is that balance? Because all of us, have a conservatism and liberalism, or a sense of being liberal about us. You know what I'm saying? Let's take liberals, for instance. Extreme liberals. As extreme liberal as you are, when you have a committed personal partnership with someone of your preference, you don't want you want to be exclusive with them. You don't want this to be more, them to be extremely social in their relations intimately with so many other people. You want that to be selective, where there is a mutual agreement between you and that person that you are committed to each other. That is a conservative thought. That is a conservative view. That is a conservative thinking or conservative thought. For any conservative person, you you don't want to be around other people that seem their lifestyle is not agreeable to your restricted ideals. So you want to be liberated from being amongst or having to feel forced into being among all of these other type of people that are disagreeable to your views and ideals. That is a liberal thought. In your conservatism, you want to be liberated from these people, from these rules, from these changes. Is there a strong presence of structure or cycles of dysfunctional disorganization? The people that are included in your life, your friends, your family, your allies, your circle, your closest circle. What kind of people are these people? Are they happy people? Are they frustrating people? Are they angry people? Because who they are is a strong representation as to who you are, because you continue to be around them. You continue to keep them. You continue to communicate with them. You know what I'm saying? Really think about it. More than likely, people that are single and see happy couples and, become very judgmental in observing those happy people, are you jealous? Because you're going to say that you're not. But the reality is, you wish that you had a relationship just like that, and you don't. And you're mad about it. And that's why you're being so judgmental. Negatively. You know what I'm saying? As if that can't happen to you. But the reality is, you don't really want it to happen to you because you are more comfortable in your misery than changing and doing the necessary steps into being different and gravitating towards happiness. Like, you probably need to change the people that you hang around and your structure. Like, be around people that agree or are agreeable to who you would like to see yourself to be. When you see someone that is what you would like to be, step up to that person, introduce yourself, and ask them in your most humble words, acknowledge them, and then ask them what makes them who they are. And how can I be like that as well? And I'm sure that once you take that first step, you are going to feel very ingratiated and appreciative that that moment happened. And you need to continue that like exercise. You know what I'm saying? Like, you working out and trying to be fit. Like, you trying to change the structure of your mind the same way you are trying to change the structure of your body. Are you a giving person or receiving person? Are you the type of person that always prefers to take because you never have? Or are you the type of person that always wants to give because of what people don't have? When it comes to needing something, are you easy to ask someone for something? Or do you choose to be more self-reliant and resistant into taking advantage of other people? Like, what is your sexual preference? That's another note I put down. You know what I'm saying? Because you got a lot of people that are in the closet, and in these days of, this anti-woke, is how they label it, realistically, a lot of suicides, as well as abuse, relationship abuse, has happened in the past because of this disassociation into your true identification. You know what I'm saying? Because, it's shameful to be different. Like, you need to conform into this imaginary life that, specific people tell you you're supposed to live by, and who you're supposed to be within, this fictitious life. But if you prefer the company of other men sexually, and you a man, or woman to woman in reverse, if you aren't practicing who you really are, don't you feel like a fraud? Don't you feel like a fake? You know what I'm saying? You have to pretend to be something different around all these other different types of people, and you really can't be you, and that frustrates you. I mean, that's the reality of it. That's why we had so many issues and problems before, when it came to suicides and abuse. And myself, I am heterosexual. And that's just by personal choice. I have no problems with homosexuality. I'll kindly let you know, if you try to step to me, that as much as I respect you and I will continue to communicate and have a relationship with you, like, that's not something that I'm into, and it's not something that I say I can't be around, as far as, being in environments, let's say, of gay pride parades or whatever. Like, I really encourage people to love truly not only who they are, but love other people and be honest in that love and commitment to other people. Are you an honest person or a deceptive pretender? And that falls into just what I was talking about as well. Honesty. Like, that is something that I definitely preach on, as well as practice even more. Because in yesterday's, I used to be a habitual liar, thinking, that was going to continue to fool people into not finding out all of the troubles and my deep connection to addiction. You know what I'm saying? I thought by being deceptive and being the best deceiver, that the honesty would not ever reveal itself. And you can't never, ever, ever run or hide from the truth. Someone always has some inclination or knows what's going on, and they're watching. You know what I'm saying? You so paranoid, you don't even understand. You so emotional and in an uncontrolled state of being that I mean, people ain't even really trying to figure you out. You're gonna expose yourself more than them finding out about you. You know what I'm saying? Because what you do is going to show how you think more than what you say. Do you believe there is power in your true self, or do you believe the imposter is the real you? Are you afraid to be who you really want to be? Are you afraid to be a weirdo? Are you afraid to bring out this expressive, fun personality, this different version of you that you claim that no one is going to accept or appreciate and they are going to mock and make fun of? I used to be so into trying to be what other people thought I should be, or, what I needed to be in order to protect myself from being mocked and ridiculed by others. You know what I'm saying? Like, that really started to become a problem for me. You know what I'm saying? Living in that imposter life, like, really was restricting. And when I really looked at that man in the mirror, I was like, yo, that's not who you really are. You know what I'm saying? I felt like I had to be forced into being something else in order to survive. You know what I'm saying? But not being nationally cultural, only, regionally cultural, really clouded my deeper understanding and aspect of the more broader, national feeling, about people such as me. You know what I'm saying? Because I grew up in New York City and there's a lot of stereotypes, and I lived my life thinking that everybody treated me and looked at me, in that stereotype. And I created that stereotype by existing and becoming and pretending to be something other than what made me feel most comfortable, because I felt ashamed of being mocked and ridiculed by, the people that, I considered or believed, to be, or to have my back. You know what I'm saying? Basically, loosely speaking, you figure that, boys from the hood or, all black folks are going to have your back because, white people are the enemy. I lived my life long enough to know that a lot of black people don't get along with other black people, no different than white people not liking black people and white people not liking other white people. Like, people are people, you know what I'm saying? And who you choose to be is how you present yourself, how you speak, your tone, you know what I'm saying? How you move, do you seem very irritated and aggressive, or do you seem calm and in control? Do you believe that you have power over situations, or situations have power over you? And lastly, I put, are you courageous or a coward? One thing I was thinking of when I just read that is the last corporate job that I had in the culinary field. I was the assistant lead for an assisted living community in the kitchen. And the lead of the nursing department really um, said some negative things about not only my department, but really was berating and being verbally abusive to, a nighttime staff member. And he was a cool dude. He really wasn't confrontational, and you could tell he was really shooken up by, this moment, the prior night that this lady created, this very negative and rant filled exchange, with this individual about, our rules and regulations and the meal preparation for the night. And it's never what you do, it's how you do it, And when this was approached the next day, to us kitchen members, the lead of my department, she chose not to really address further and stand up for, our coworker. And the type of person I am, I don't like bullies and I don't like people that, try to disrespect, and be prejudicial, towards others. So I had to go and address the situation. And I wound up losing my job because I stood up for this guy. I wasn't going to let this person not only slander and verbally abuse my coworker, but I was also going to defend my department because, we're professionals and we were trying to help, not hurt people. And the way that the verbiage was being exchanged by this other department lead, the head nurse, was that, our practices in the kitchen would kill people. And I'm like, yo, we grown people. We not, children or teenagers or, young adults. Like, we're grown professionals and I care about not only what I do, but the people that I'm servicing. And this is, an elderly facility where, I took this position because it felt extremely rewarding and encouraging for me to pay it forward at this point in my career and learn something new in the aspect of dietary cooking and take my skills and my services to the elderly community. And I stood up for him, And because I stood up for him, there was a lot of bad feelings because of how direct I was. I wasn't vulgar and I wasn't rude, but I was extremely direct into explaining boundaries. And that compromised how they felt about me. And that was one thing I also learned about, how I approach social media and how I say things, because as mad as I was about losing, that job and basically being escorted off the premises, I gave them an excuse to do what they did, how they did it, because once they went into my whole social media and saw some of my shared feelings, and I was being extremely personal, in how I felt, they used it as a weapon against me, and kudos to them, Really no love lost. I feel more appreciative than distraught about the end result, because the time I spent there, I did put my full, true, and authentic effort into helping others. You know what I'm saying? So, all that being said, when it comes down to, people um, giving so much honor and acknowledgement into how I carry myself, I'm going to tell you right now, the first thing that I did was I had to do a reality check. And I really had to sit down, not even sit down, but stare myself in the face, looking at the mirror and asking myself, who the hell are you? And if you don't like what you have to say about yourself, what are you going to do to change it? If you want to be happy, why are you hanging around miserable people? If you want to be happy, why do you continue to listen to angry music? If you want to be happy, why do you continue to watch and listen and follow programming and shows that continue to keep you in a sense of rage than a feeling of joy? The things you do and the hobbies you have, do they encourage you or do they restrict you? So again, who are you? And a lot of people don't know how to answer that if they was asked. Because I've asked that to more than a few people in my time, and then it's like a deer in headlights, like, I don't know how to answer that question. And if you don't know how to answer the question of who you are, why do you think people treat you the way that you do and that your life continues to move in the direction that it goes? They say the blind lead the blind. So if you don't know who you are and you leading yourself, then where you really going? If you have vision and direction, then you should know exactly who you are and where you're going to be. So who are you? Are you a scumbag? Are you a liar? Are you dishonest? How do you treat others? How do you talk to other people? Are you more concerned about what they say to you or what you say to them? How do you speak to them? Because more than likely, how you speak to them and treat them is how you will be spoken to and treated in return. How you treat other people is how they will treat you in return. If you don't love yourself, no one else will know and understand how to love you. So who are you? Welcome to the neighborhood. This is Sensei Fouché. To all of you beautiful, wonderful, self-loving, worthy individuals, be smooth in unity. One.